So first of all, thank you everyone for your time this morning and for joining us on this webinar with AccessPay and Muzulu. I'll be kind of taking us through the initial bit. My name is Brian. I'm from AccessPay and I'm the Senior Partner Manager. And I'll introduce you kind of what we're going to be talking about today and take it from there really. But really appreciate you giving up a bit of your day and your time to join us. Hopefully you'll see some value from it and then we can carry on conversations after the webinar as well. So just to kick things off, the people that we have on the webinar today are myself and Charles, who you can see beside me, who is our head of sales at AccessPay. And also joining us is both Hamish and Darren from our partner Muzulu, who are IFS experts on this webinar. So Hamish is the Managing Director of Muzulu, and Darren being the Senior Business Development Manager at Muzulu as well. So we'll be kind of taking you through it, talking about a few things, and then at the end, we'll share the details of both myself and Darren and for anyone to get in touch with as well. So a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. First of all, to give you a bit of an introduction to both Muzulu and AccessPay, and then really start to show you a little bit more about the businesses and especially then the kind of landscape that we see a lot of people and a lot of our customers in and the solutions that are available to them as a result of the partnership that both Muzulu and AccessPay have developed together and how that can really help businesses and what they're trying to do as well. And then take you through a couple of examples, especially focusing on Global Ec and where they were and where they are now today. And at the end, I'd like, if you have any questions, to save them for the end. We will be able to field one or two of them, but we're always happy to follow up any questions afterwards as well. So initially what I'll do then is I will introduce you to Hamish from Muzulu, and he can let you know a little bit more about Muzulu.
Thanks, Brian. So yeah, just a little bit of background. Obviously, my name's Hamish. I have worked in and around IFS for too long, but Muzulu as an organisation is an IFS partner as well as an AccessPay partner, but we have quite a depth of IFS people within our organisation, both here in the UK and also abroad, particularly in Sri Lanka. And fundamentally, our focus is on helping our customers to be as successful as possible, both with IFS, but more at a wider business process level. So inevitably, IFS will provide a percentage of a solution. There are pieces around the edges of that make sense to have other systems, other processes, whatever it might be, involved to drive further success. And we're firmly of the belief that the AccessPay tools and competencies really are really helpful to improve your business, and that's why we're having this type of discussion today. But I think the really important thing to be aware of in terms of Muzulu is our depth of experience. You know, if you look across our consulting teams, we have on average more than a decade of experience per consulting team member, and I think that's really helpful to our customers because it's the depth of skill and knowledge and experience that really helps to drive your success. So moving on a little bit, if you don't mind, I might hand back to you, Brian, because I think you're going to say a few words about AccessPay.
Yeah, thanks, Hamish. So just to make people aware, at AccessPay, we're a cloud-based solution. And as it says here, what we want to be able to help people do is enable them to connect their back office systems like IFS to their banking estate and the other payment schemes globally, and really helping people overcome the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis within their jobs, but also then giving them the ability to be able to do more, to automate more, to be more secure and to improve those processes that they might have as well where possible. A little bit more about us as a business. So we are based out of Manchester, and as you can see here, we have over 1,000 customers, but to really give you a sense of the scale and the security that AccessPay brings, you can see we currently have over $1 trillion going through the platform. But not just that, that comprises over 200 million different transactions each year. So we're helping people with their payments, whether that's their cash management, we're able to help give them that visibility, but in a way that offers them the security and the scale that they need to be able to operate in different levels. As you can see, being a BACS approved software as well as a SWIFT partner as well. So just to take things on a little bit more and give you an idea about our journey, I guess, over the past 9-10 years from Access Pay, we've always been a cloud-based solution, and will continue to be so and continue to develop. But some of the really important things that we like to talk about, as I've mentioned already, is that we are a BACS approved supplier as well as a SWIFT partner as well. And some things that we're very proud of, as you can see at the bottom there, is the strategic partnerships that we have with both MasterCard and Barclays in particular. So we work closely with them, we're trusted by them, and hopefully then you can see that trust can extend to you in your businesses as well. So Hamish, if I take back to you, what we wanted to discuss really is a bit more about the kind of different business and departments that are involved with a solution between Access Pay and Muzulu, and what that landscape looks like for a lot of people out there right now.
Absolutely, and I think the really important piece to remember here is that there are a whole range of ways that your business processes are involved with the wider banking networks, and I think that's the big thing to remember. You know, the obvious ones, the ones that we commonly see, are accounts payable and the bank reconciliation flows, and to a lesser degree accounts receivable with direct debits. But you don't need to think too much further, and you're talking about payroll or travel expense reimbursement, some additional obvious ones. The other thing that often comes to mind is, especially with the likes of utility providers, it's your CRM connection, so you can take direct debits from customers as well. It may not be your ERP or IFS system in particular. It may well be a wider billing platform that's involved, and certainly some of the organizations we've worked with in the past, that's the sort of activity that they are involved with. So pushing on a little bit further, why is that so important? And I think the challenge that we regularly see is that, you know, I use IFS as an example in this slide, but there's a whole lot of manual processes to move that data flow through so that payments can be made or payments can be collected, bank statements brought back in for reconciliation, whatever it might be. And obviously the more human involvement you have in that process, the easier it is for problems to creep in. And what we're really about here is getting rid of the problems, minimizing the risk. You know, everyone talks about the fraud risk, but actually probably the more likely scenario is someone miskeys. You know, it's no bad intention involved. It's just that digits are transposed, or the wrong customer is selected, or the wrong supplier is selected, or whatever it might be. And those problems are just as challenging, because they cause problems, and you need to spend time resolving the problem. And that's, I guess, the big thing that needs to be addressed here. It's by connecting these parties up, you know, connecting the banks and your back office platform in terms of IFS, it allows you to have a much more rigorous and much more tightly controlled business process. And I think that's the really big thing to take away. By bringing these things together, you minimize exposure and risk to your organization, and generally you speed things up, all of which are generally quite good, in my opinion anyway. So if we push on there, Brian, and I think this is the next piece here, yep. So the big equation here is, if we take that manual effort away and replace it with Access Pay, and, you know, obviously this is a very simplistic view of the world for the webinar, but the exercise here is that Access Pay will do an automated version of moving data back and forth into and out of the banking network. And I think that's the key takeaway here, is that it's doing things that are repetitive and error prone on your behalf is the starting point for this discussion. Obviously the output of that is that you're reducing errors, which is always a good thing. You are getting greater levels of auditability and authentication, so that you know the right person is doing the right thing in the right way at the right time. There's a whole lot of transmission type security that's built into these platforms, both from an IFS side and from an Access Pay side, and we'll touch a little bit later on how we leverage that to make it work really well. And the big thing here as well is that it allows you to have a single set of processes right across the banking network connection points. And that's, I think, really useful because the consistency actually, if anything, starts to drive human error out of the process as well. And so there's lots of really good benefits that creep in this discussion, and I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind. So let's move on and talk about what the technology actually looks like. And I think, Charles, you were going to step in at this point.
Sure, I can have a little whirl, yeah. Okay, so what do we actually do? Effectively, as a technology, we connect businesses like yourselves to either banks or schemes to allow you to make payments safely. So that means we work with all sorts of different teams within a business. So we could be that you want to connect your payroll directly to banks in the UK, or it could mean that you want to do international payroll. We can do that by either connecting to the scheme or connecting you to one or more of your transactional banks. We also then often get involved in other parts of your accounts team. So that could be where you're making standard payments, it could be your expenses, it could be almost anything. Or it could be going across to your treasury team and actually where they're keeping money across your banking estate for investments or for sweeping or making sure money's where it is. So it's not just a tool that's used often by finance, it's normally an unsiloed tool that can bring benefits across the whole of your finance and treasury teams. And as I say, a lot of our clients start off with a simple need or a simple problem that they want to solve. They might be opening in a new territory and suddenly worrying about how they're going to make payments there, or they might be, their UK payroll's gone past the size that really makes sense to do it through a banking portal. So they want to do it through banks, and that could be what they want to solve straight away. So generally, we'll step in, analyze what you want to do, talk through with you as to what makes sense commercially and sensibly to actually act on, and then we'll come back with a plan saying we can connect you to the scheme or this bank for either 3-day payments, same-day payments, SEPA, CHAPS, or faster payments. We'll put together a package as effectively that meets what you want it to do. The beauty from your side as a finance or a treasury team is you don't need to worry about the technology behind that. You don't need to worry about how it works. You just, once it's all set up and put together, as far as you're concerned, all you've got then is visibility of what's happening, control over what's happening, you can report on what's happening, and you can audit what's happening. So you don't have to worry about the technology at all. All you do is see this one portal that you can use to look through to see all the payments you've connected up through your entire banking estate. It's not always only just actually outward bound payments that we could be involved with too anyway. We've already said if you were doing direct debits either in the UK or globally, we can help that process to allow you to do collections. And if you want to know where your money is or how much money you've got across a really wide potentially banking estate at any one time, we can do reconciliation there. We can tell you your cash position either in real time or end of day across any level of banks. And our clients, literally some of them just want to do banks, and some of them have got multiple banks all over the world where they want to make payments, they want reconciliation, they want actual kind of like cash positioning all in one. And we can either do all that in one big go, or we can do that in a phased approach across the whole thing. So generally, we are just a technology piece, really. We just try and make sure that some of the tough things to do as a finance or a treasurer on an IT team in a business become really easy and really straightforward. And it allows you to get the value you've invested in a system like IFS or a high-end ERP or whatever it might be. It allows you to get to the value of that system rather than it breaking down at the output point where suddenly you go back to a really manual, risky, time-taking way of dealing with the actual skillful data you've all put together. Now, I know that was a bit of a monologue, but hopefully it all made sense so far. So I'll pass back over to you, Hamish, and you want to say about the extra bit of sauce you put on top there from Muzulu.
Absolutely, and thank you, Charles. I guess the extra piece here is obviously Access Pay are really good at the banking end of this equation, and Muzulu as an organization is really good at the IFS end of this equation. And what we have done is built in some standardized connectors so that the Access Pay and IFS touch points work really well and really consistently. And that's, I guess, the important part that we're directly involved with in terms of technology. And there's a few examples that are listed there in terms of making supplier payments both domestically and abroad, bringing back bank statements so that you can then reconcile within IFS if that's appropriate. But also the advantage of doing that is particularly customer receipts can then be pushed through your financials really easily directly from the bank statement, and those sorts of things become really helpful and really useful. The other thing that I think we bring to the equation here as well is helping you to optimize some of these processes within IFS so that you get a really streamlined procure to pay flow, for example, because that's fundamentally a key part of this equation. So yeah, I think that's some important information that's useful, that together Muzulu and Access Pay are able to help you really effectively, because we have done this before. We're aware of where the challenges are in the different process flows, and we have dealt with them already. So I will hand back over there.
Yeah, and that's one thing to note on that as well. I think that's the beauty of the partnership that we have together for reassuring people that want to engage with both of us, is that this has been done before, and we know how to do it, and we are continuing to want to work together even more closely to help customers more than anything. That's the key aim, that they have the best solution in place, that ultimately with this process and those standardizations, you can then, where possible, automate as much of the process as you can or want to. You might still want to have various checks along the way for your payments, but this partnership between us allows you to take a lot of that manual process out and really accelerate that automation that you have ambitions to do, or that you would like to do in the future as well. So just to give you an idea, typically people like to show off at times, and this isn't mean to do that, but it's to give you a real sense that with the Access Pay solution, the clients that are using it, it's not siloed into one specific area or industry. We cover, as you can see, numerous industries, whether that's retail, as you can see quite a few there, but especially manufacturing, as well as engineering, and all the different areas that we help people. It covers quite a wide span, and it's, as Charles mentioned earlier, it's in various levels. It might be for a very simple application, or it might be for a more complex application and need as well. But we can help, and we have helped people in multiple sectors, down to public services, government organizations, or like I said, the kind of engineering manufacturing space as well. But what we wanted to do really was take a look a little bit closer at one of these, and that was to look a little bit closer at Global and give you an idea of what their challenges were, where they were, and then really what the solution with Access Pay and Muzulu has helped them to achieve, and how that can maybe apply to your processes, your business, and moving forward then potentially the benefit you can get from it as well.
Absolutely. So Global are an IFS customer based in the centre of London. They have operations both here in the UK and throughout Africa. And their primary approach to life as an organisation is owning and operating power plants, is probably the easiest way to describe it. And I think one of the key things that has come about over time with them is that they have quite a diverse set of processes, and they have been implementing IFS to try and bring that in from and what the involvement with Access Pay has allowed them to do is to start looking at some of the wider cash management side of things as well. They had obviously very diverse processes, a lack of visibility in terms of who did what and when, and inevitably with a whole range of different entities within their group involved, there was a need to get wider visibility of where the working capital demands might have been at any point in time. And those are all fairly consistent sort of challenges across a whole variety of businesses. What they have done from a solution perspective is brought in transmission of BACS payments here in the UK. It's a fairly obvious one. And they've then expanded that further to deal with foreign currency transmissions, both here in the UK and also in a range of their entities across Africa. So typically, they could make a payment in any currency on any particular day. And that is obviously quite a powerful thing to be able to transmit that directly from within IFS. And they, on top of that, have then been working through the process to have bank statements integrated directly from banks through Access Pay and into IFS, so that at 7:30 every morning, you log into IFS and the bank statements are already there. They quite literally come down every morning, so that you've then got the reconciliation process can happen on a daily basis if that's appropriate. Obviously, some accounts have more transactions than others. It's the normal sort of banking equation. But the output of that is that they get a really accurate cross-business view of what their cash position is, what the challenges might be in terms of outbound payments or incoming receipts, and therefore they can take decisive action much earlier than they might otherwise have been able to. I think that's a really powerful place for them to get to. I think Brian and Charles, you had a few more comments on what was going on there as well.
Yeah, I'd love to follow up a little bit on that, because imagine you as a business are opening in a new territory. You're opening in Tanzania, building a renewable energy plant there, and then from your London HQ, you want effectively to know what's going on and visibility over it, and not have that kind of like fear that maybe there's not enough money in the account, maybe the payments are going to the wrong place, or maybe they're not being made. Or it was a lot to do with actually control and being able to feel that we are a global company. We have banking estates all over the world, and I, as the FD in London, want to actually know what's going on at any point within that entire organization. I want to cut down the reliance of a localized banking portal. I want to cut down the reliance on somebody typing data in there and physically making payments, and I don't know what's actually happening. And I want to be able to actually have a semblance of control over that entire operation, so that I'm not surprised by anything. I know exactly how much money's in every account, what payment's being made, when it's being paid, and I'm on top of it. I want effectively the kind of the convenience that I'd expect to have just with my UK bank, that I could maybe even go in the branch. I want that level of convenience and security and control across every bank, wherever I might want to open to. So this kind of project started out with, as Amy says, with fairly limited ideas of, we need to make UK payments. We want to be able to put a proper process around that. But we also we've got a problem here across Africa of control and knowing what's happening. And we investigated that together to see if we could solve it. Now, in that investigation, there was a number of ways we could have come back to actually solve it. I.e., we could have said, just do some of your very main banks in certain areas. And then, maybe in Tanzania, as it opens up, you don't need to worry quite yet, because the scale there is not big enough. If we were also going to be opening in 12 other territories, we might have turned around and say, you know what, connections to banks, there's going to be too many of them. It's going to be too complex for you to control and keep on top of. So potentially there, we would have looked at the different networks into that SWIFT to connect to allow all these payments. But between the three of us, between us, GlobalEck and Muzulu, we figured out exactly where the problems were, exactly where the benefits could bring, and allowed them to make a decision on what would be commercially best advantageous to them. And it's worked out extremely well. So now then they literally have that level of control, that level of visibility, and that peace of mind that all payments are securely being monitored to a workflow that's actually been signed off and defined at headquarters. So yeah, we're really proud of the partnership all three of us have had in actually putting this together and making it work all the way across Africa. And yeah, I see this continuing to expand as they expand over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and just one thing to add to that, as you're sitting here watching this, you might think, well, I don't have 20 banks, I only have 1 or 2. Equally, we can help. As we said, that phased approach has helped us to get to the point we are now with GlobalEck, but whether it's one bank or 20, we want to be able to help you, and we have made a difference for people just looking at backs, or whether it's a host-to-host connection with their individual banks. We're able to help people whatever stage they're at. But then what we want to do, like Charles has just said and Hamish mentioned, we want to be able to grow with you as well. But as you grow and as you expand, we're able to go along that journey, that you're not restricted by the capabilities of Access Pay or Muzulu. We're able to scale with you as you scale as well. So don't think it needs to be a complex project for us to get involved. We like the simple ones as well. We definitely do, but it shows really what we can do and how we can help, for the difference of bringing all that kind of separate processes and locations under one unified platform to help them have visibility, like Charles mentioned. So hopefully what you find is that was valuable and useful. I guess the key thing for us now is what next. What we really would love to do together is help you automate your processes and more, help understand your businesses a bit better, see where we can help and if we can help. And really what we have is to reach out to myself from an Access Pay point of view, and you have on the screen there, you have Darren's details as well from Muzulu. Together we'd love to speak more to you and basically help you do and overcome what challenges you might have. But what I'd like to do now is we'd love to follow up and answer more detailed questions, give you demonstrations of the platform, and like I said, get into a bit more detail with you as a business. But just while we're on this webinar, is there any questions that anyone has now? And if so, then please feel free to just enter them into the box, and we can maybe answer one or two questions that you have now as well. I'll not wait too long on this, so we're not just sitting in silence again. But if you do have a question, please just feel free to drop it into the box, and we'll do our best to answer it now for you. Hamish, before we end and while we're waiting for any questions, is there anything from a Muzulu point of view that you wanted to leave or to add with everyone?
I think we've had quite a good discussion today already about how we can help businesses from an IFS perspective really streamline their payment flows. And I think in our minds this forms part of a wider procure to pay solution where we have quite a few really good involvements with our partners to give a really integrated, tightly controlled end-to-end process. And I think that's how I see this fitting into a wider organizational process flow.
Perfect. Great. Well, we've got no questions, but what I would like to say again is thank you everyone for joining. Like I said, we'd love to speak more to you, so please do reach out. And we will send a recording of this so you can share with everyone within your business as well, that's relevant. But thank you for attending, and hopefully we will speak to you all very soon.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Hamish.
Cheers.